You can master Google Forms. This is a fantastic tool from Google to help you share and collate data, user survey information, and you can share it quickly and easily across Sheets, Docs, and every other Google tool. So if you want to really eliminate your frustration and know the ins and outs of Google Forms, then I urge you, go ahead and sign up for this course right now. I'm so happy to have as my co-instructors on this course, Benson Chen and Yingyan Chen. They both are great young technology wizards. They are going to take you through a journey where you will become a master of Google Forms. So what are you waiting for? Let's go right now, sign in. Quick reminder, this is a real course with real instructors. We are standing by. Benson Chen, Ying Chen, they are both here and they are waiting for your questions. So if you're confused, just post your questions right here in the student Q&A section. They are available to you, so don't hold back. Make us earn our pay.
Welcome to the complete course on Google Forms. Google Forms is a tool that allows you to make and distribute surveys and quizzes with ease. I've actually been using this since middle school and have made countless numbers of forms. They have ranged from club applications to event RSVPs to surveys to collect information for projects. I have also used it to make a couple of quizzes back during my summer tutoring days. And these are just a few examples of what you can do on Google Forms. It is really easy to customize and distribute your questionnaires and surveys with the many functions that this tool offers. Once you have received your responses, Forms also automatically summarizes them into charts to make analyzing data super easy. I don't really know of any other program that does this, but either way, Google Forms is the only tool you need when it comes to forms. So watch on and learn how to create your own questionnaires. In this video, I will demonstrate how to set up a Google Forms. I always like to start off at the Google Drive interface because it is the main frame which gives you access to the majority of the Google apps. To open up Forms, go ahead and click on New. Then hover your cursor down to More, and this will show you a bunch of the more hidden apps, such as Forms, Drawings, Sites, and etc. Now, if you bring your mouse to the arrow on the right of Google Forms, you will get a side pop-up that lets you choose between starting from a blank form or from a template. If you click on From a Template, this will open up the template gallery in a new window. So as you can see, there are a bunch of options for you to choose from, whether it is an RSVP form, a time off request, customer feedback, or even a course evaluation. And since these are all templates, that means they are all editable, pre-made forms for you to take advantage of and customize. However, I usually like to start from a blank form, so you can either head up and click on blank, or if you are accessing it from the Google Drive interface, you will simply go and click on New, go back to More, and this time just simply click on Google Forms. This will open up an untitled blank form in a new window for you to work on. Now don't forget to give your form a title so you'll be able to easily find it later on. For this Forms course, I will be making a form asking the responders to tell me a little bit about themselves. So I can simply click on it and name it Tell Me About Yourself. Now that we have our form set up, in the next few videos, we will dive into talking about the body / the substance of the form itself. Now that we have our form set up, the first order of business is filling out our title and our description. Google Forms actually filled out the title when we added in the name, but if you want a different title, just click on it and edit it. Next up is the form description. And depending on what your form is about, you can just leave it blank, or you can write a few words to give the responders some insight into what the form is about, or to give extra information. So for this one in particular, I can write, So I wrote, answer a few questions to help me learn more about you. But if this was an RSVP form, you could write the date, the time, the place, the dress code for the event in the description instead. And if it were a quiz, you can write the due date here instead. For example, due next Friday at 11:59 p.m. So just go ahead and fill out your description accordingly to your form. Whenever you set up a form, there will already be a blank multiple choice question ready for you to use. So you can simply click and type in your first question, which for mine would be name. Here we go. And if you look over to the question type, you can see that it automatically switched from multiple choice to short answer. This is because Google Forms is really good at differentiating what kind of questions you are asking based on the question input. Since I wrote name, Google Form realizes that multiple choice would not be a good question type, so they switched it over to short answer. Now, while Google Forms is good at analyzing the question type, sometimes they are not always right. So if it chooses the wrong type for you, you can click on the box and choose the one that will suit your preference better. And in the next video, I will actually go through and explain each of these question types, as well as give examples of when it is best to use them. Now, to end off this video and to add a second question, I will click on the first icon on the side. And this will give us a new blank multiple choice question. So we can just repeat the steps in this video and type in our second question. As I mentioned in the last video, in this video we will be going over the different question types that Google Form offers. So for this, I actually quickly made a form that includes every single question type. This way, you can see what each question type entails. First up, we have the short answer type. So this is a text type question where you only get a one-line text box. And you would use this mainly for names and emails, or any responses that don't require a lot of writing. But if you are, then you would choose the paragraph type. With this type, you get multiple lines to write your response, and you can even write an essay here if you want. Now, you are able to tell the difference between the two because the line for the short response only goes midway, while the line for the paragraph type extends all the way to the end. Now, if I paste the same sample text into both, as I'm doing right now, you can see that some of the text would be hidden and cut off for the short answer type, while you can see all the writing in its glory in the paragraph type. Now, next up, we have multiple choice. This is the type of question where the user can only choose one of the choices. So, what t-shirt size would you like? You can either choose small, medium, or large, or you can choose this others option. Now, this is where the user can actually write in their own choices that was missing from the list. So, for example, I can click on other and type in extra extra large since it's not one of the size options given. Next up, we have the checkbox question, where the user can check off as many options as they want. So that means we can check off 1, 2, or even all of them. This question type also has an options button, just like what we previously discussed for multiple choice. However, I just chose not to add it. And you can see that the differentiation between these two question types is the shape of the choice fill-ins. If it is a circle, then it is a multiple choice which only accepts one answer. And if it is a square, then it is a checkbox that accepts multiple choices. Now, the next and third type of similar question is this drop-down one. For drop-downs, when you click on the box, it will give you a drop-down of the different choices for you to choose from. So let's just say humanities. And with drop-downs, you will be given a list where you can only choose one option. But unlike multiple choice, there is not an others option for you to write in your own response. This question type is helpful for questions with a lot of answers, such as what state are you from? If you made the "what state are you from" a multiple choice question, that question would have been really long and taken up a lot of space, because it would have to list out each state one by one until it reached all 50. But if you used a drop-down instead, you can see that the question doesn't take up as much space because all the choices are hidden inside the drop-down. So this way, it is more convenient for the responders. Next up, we have the file upload. This is where you can go and submit files. Now, if we scroll back up, you can see that we have this little blurb here asking you to verify that this is the account that you want to be associated with this form. And your form would only have this if you added a file upload question. If you see this, be sure to double check that it is the right email, because when you go back to the upload file section and click on add file, you can see that you have a choice of either uploading from your computer or accessing it from the drive. Now this drive will be the one that is associated with the email on the top of the form. With this, you can also make it only allow for certain file types, file sizes, and set a max number of files that one can submit. I currently have it set to only PDFs, which is why only my PDFs located in my drive are showing up. But you can actually leave out these requirements if you want. So I can just go ahead and select problem 1 and select it. The next question type is this linear scale, which represents rank, agreeance and disagreeance, and etc. So with this, you get to choose from a scale of 0 to 10 and what each number represents. As you can see, I chose a 1 to 5 scale, with 1 representing not likely and 5 representing very likely. And since this is a scale, that means 2, 3, and 4 represents the likeliness in between. So how likely are you to attend the event? If I choose 4, that means I am likely to attend the event. Next up on our form is our multiple choice grid. So this is exactly what the name implies. It is multiple choice questions on a grid, where the statements or the questions are on the rows, while the answer choices are on the columns. And since these are multiple choice, as you can see by the circle fill-ins, you can only choose one answer per row. So I can't go ahead and say that I am both proficient as well as have no experience in Photoshop. It's either one or the other. Another great example for multiple choice grid is when you ask for agreeance or for rank. So for example, if we are doing agreeance, we can have strongly agree here, agree, neutral, and etc. And you can put the statements that you want them to rank on here. So this way, it actually acts as a bunch of stacked scale question types. Next up, we have this, which is the checkbox grid. And this works in the same way as the multiple choice grid, but since they are square fill-ins, you can check more than one option per row. This is great if you are an employer and you want to send out a form to see when your employees are able to work. So when filling out this checkbox question, you can fill out as many options as you want, ranging from none to maybe even all. Next up, we have the date. You can either write in a date using your keyboard, or you can click on the calendar icon, which will give you a calendar pop-up. And here you can go and find whatever date you want to input using this option. So let's just randomly say February 5th. And last but not least, we have the time question type. Now this can actually be split into two different ones. So we have time and we have duration. For the time question, I asked, what time do you get off work? So you can just input the time. So let's just say 5:30, and you can click on the down arrow to select AM or PM. Now, when we are working with duration, it will ask you to input the duration time in terms of hours, minutes, and seconds. So just type it in using your keyboards. So how long was the phone call interview? We can say 0 hours, 27 minutes, and 4 seconds. And having finished that, we actually concluded the different question types that Google Form offers. This should be enough to cover anything and any question type that you want to include in your form. In this video, we will learn how to insert images and videos into a Google Form. There are actually 3 ways to do so. 1 is by adding an image into a question, 2 by adding an image as an answer option, and 3 by adding an image or video on its own. So let's tackle the image into question first. Here I already have a question ready, which asks, have you ever been to Disney World before? Now I can leave it like this, or I can actually go in and insert a photo of Disney World. To do this, I will have to hover my cursor in between the question and the question type. And you will see this image icon pop up. When you click on this, you will see that you have a bunch of different options to insert the image by. You can upload it, you can insert it by taking a photo on the camera, insert the image by URL, from Google Photos or from your Google Drive, as well as perform a Google image search. So I actually already found a picture of Disney World that I like. So I will right click and go down to copy image address and then head back to Google Forms and go to the by URL section and paste my new URL. Once your photo has loaded and once you make sure that it is the right photo, I will click insert image. And once it's finished loading, the image should appear. Now you can click on the photo and resize it by dragging the corners, or you can head over to the ellipsis that you see on the upper left and click on it to access more formatting options. So here you can change the alignment, change the photo, delete it, as well as add a caption. So let's click add caption, and I can just type in, let's just write Disney World in Florida. Now that I'm done, I will cut to a preview of what our form currently looks like with our new image in our question. So this is a preview of our form. As you can see, we now have an image within our question, as well as a caption on the bottom that says Disney World in Florida. Now that we understand how to add a photo into our question, let's move on to the second option, which is adding in a photo into a option choice. So for this, I prepared this question. What is your favorite color? Now let's say that you wanted to add an image of each one of these colors, because why not? To do so, I would click on the question, and once you are inside, you will hover above the answer choice. When you do that, you can see that on the right end, you will see the same add image icon. When you click on this, you will once again see the 6 different ways to insert an image, and this time, I will actually click on Google Image Search. And here I can just look up whatever my answer option was, which would be red. Click enter and just find the photo that you like. So I will just go with this first one, click on it, and then click insert. And once it's done loading, it will appear right under it. So basically, I will just repeat these steps for the rest of the options, and I will finish off all these colors off camera and cut back to when it is finished. Now that we are back, you can see that I finished filling in the color spectrum and added an image for each of the answer choices. Now I have the preview open, so let's take another look. Once again, this is our image in our question, and this is what our new image and answer choice looks like. So here, as you can see, these are all the images I added. Now that we know how to do both of these, we can move on to the last but not least, the adding images and videos on their own. So I will exit out and go back to our Google Forms. So to do this, we will head over to the side panel and select on the respective icons. So this one is to add an image, while this one adds a video. And to demonstrate, I will actually go ahead and add a video. So I will click on this, which will open up a pop-up asking us to look something up on YouTube or to paste a YouTube URL. So I can just go ahead and type in something random, like hello, search it, and then let's just go with this first one, Hello by Adele. I'll select on it and then click select. As you can see, it has now appeared in a separate section. Once again, we can resize, and then let's make it a little bit bigger. And then we can head over to the ellipse on the upper left for more formatting options. So I will center it and then just leave it as is. You can also add a title for your video, but I will actually leave it blank. And now I will cut to what our new form looks like. After inserting 3 different videos and images, this is what our new form looks like. So here we have our image in question, our image in answer choice, and our image/video on its own. Now, while you can't add videos to questions, you can instead insert a video on its own and then insert a question below it, asking your responders to reference the video above when answering the question. And this concludes the 3 ways to insert videos and images on Google Forms. Every question on Google Forms has a bunch of different options, as you can see here. We will quickly go over these icons as well as how to access and use the description and response validation function. This first one is to duplicate. When you click on this, it will make a copy of the question. Next up, we have the trash can, which obviously means to delete. Then we have this required switch. When we click on the switch and move it over to the right, it makes it required. That means this question will have a red asterisk at the end of the question in the actual form. If a respondent tries to submit the form without answering that question, Google Forms will flag it and outline the question in red, letting the responder know that it is mandatory for them to answer it. Next, let's move on to the ellipsis, which gives you access to a few more options. This first one is the description. Now, this is similar to the description in the title, so when you click on it, you can add a note to the user. Since I am asking for one's name, in the description, I can write down exactly what I'm looking for. So I can write something like, please input given name. And that is my new description. Some people tend to put down their nickname or whatever they prefer to be called by. But by adding this description, it lets the user know exactly what you want and how you want them to answer. Another description example is last name, first name. And this concludes our description option. Next up, we will go over the second option that is located in the ellipsis, which is the response validation. To demonstrate, I have created this question asking for one's email. So let's click on it and head back to the ellipsis. And this time we will click on response validation. This is where you can create rules for your user to follow when they are filling out the form. Since I am asking for one's email, the rule for this question is that every answer must have an @ symbol, because that is something that every email contains. So to make sure that they are adding an email address, I can go ahead and create this rule. For the first box, I will go and choose regular expression. Then I will leave this second box as contains, and I will type in the @ symbol for where it asks for pattern. Now, if you try to submit this question without inputting an answer with an @ symbol, Google Forms will flag it and an error message will pop up. You can actually add your own custom error text and target it to your response validation rule. So for this email rule example, I can go ahead and type out my own custom text, which is So for this one, I have chosen to write, is not a valid email address. Please include @ in your symbol. Now, if one tries to answer this question without including an @ symbol in their response, they will be prompted with this error message. And we can actually cut to me testing it out right now. So this is currently what our form looks like. So I can click on email and type in a pretend email address. Once I click off, you can see that Google Form realizes that since this doesn't have an @ symbol, it doesn't match my response validation. Therefore, it types out this custom error message that I just added. This is a great way to ensure that people can only submit properly formatted emails. Now, another example of what we can use response validation for is when it comes to the length of the text. So if you had a question and you want to ensure that the respondent actually writes something and puts effort into it, you can set a rule for it to require the response to reach a minimum count of, let's just say, 25 characters. And then you can add an error text saying must be at least 25 characters. Now, while this response validation is only available on the short answer, the paragraph, and the checkbox type questions, there are many different usages for them, so take advantage of the response validation and set rules to make sure that you are getting the responses that fit your standard. Now, depending on the question type, the ellipsis will also contain different options. If you have the question type set to multiple choice, there will be new options such as shuffle option order, which will prompt Google Forms to scramble the orders of the answer choices for each form. And this concludes the video for question functions. In this video, we will go over how to import questions. What this means is that you will be able to easily transfer questions and answers from one form to another. On Google Forms, you can't just hit Control or Command-C and copy the question and answers from one form and paste them onto another. You would have to go in and retype the question and all the answer choices, or you can use this import question feature. So here I have another form that I quickly made. This is a Halloween bake sale pre-order form, and in it I have it asking for one's name, email, as well as what Halloween themed bake sale item they would like to buy. This is actually based off of another form that I made earlier, which is just an ordinary bake sale pre-order form. So once again, you see the name, email, what they would like to buy, but this one actually includes payment method and baked good suggestions. If I wanted these two questions to actually be included in my new Halloween form, now I can manually add these two, or since I already have a bake sale form that I already like, I can just import the questions from the previously made one to save me some time. So let's head back over to Halloween bake sale. And now to import questions, I will go over to the second option on the sidebar. When you click on it, you will see all the forms that you currently have in your Google Drive account. So choose the form that has the questions that you want to import. So mine will be the bake sale pre-order, and then hit select. Now all the questions that are featured in your selected form will be shown on the right-hand side. You would then go and check off all the questions from that selected form that you want to import or transfer over into this new form. So it shows the questions as well as question type, and if applicable, it will show the number of options that question has. Since I want this form to include the payment method and baked goods suggestions, I will just check them off and then click Import Questions. And if we scroll down, you can see that the questions and answer choices of our selected questions are now both present in this new Halloween form. Now I will cut to a preview to show you what our new form looks like. So here is our Halloween bake sale pre-order form, and as you can see, we now have these two new additions that we just moved in using the Import Questions feature. So this Import Question is a really nifty feature that will help save a lot of time and effort, especially if the forms are relatively similar. In this video, we will talk about how to use sections, which is a really important and useful feature on Google Forms. So I went ahead and I made some new changes to our form. I started by adding this new question, which asks for one's favorite park in Disney World. And then I moved the favorite color question to the bottom of the form. To move a question, you will hover above the top middle of the question until you see your mouse become this cross with arrows at the end. When you see this symbol, that means you can go ahead and drag that question to whatever new position you want it to be in. However, I still have a problem with the structure of our current form, because if you preview it as of now, all of these questions will appear on the same page all at once. To fix this, we have to go in and add sections. Sections not only break up your form, but it also lets you show certain questions based on one's answer. So let me quickly break that down for you. I have this question here that asks if you have ever been to Disney World before. If the respondent answers yes, I would want them to answer this next question, which is, what is your favorite park in Disney World? However, if the respondent answers no, then they don't have the experience to answer this next question. Therefore, I would want them to skip this Disney-specific question and head straight on to the what is your favorite colors question. Now that we have a basic understanding of sections, let's move on to actually adding them. I will go and click on our question and then head over to the last icon on our sidebar, which is the Add Sections icon. When you click on this, you will now get two sections. Our first section is already labeled with the title of our form, and whatever is under it will be on the first page of our actual form. So I will actually go and drag this email question to go under the first section. So you will move it the same method that we showed earlier before. Now you also want to keep the title of the first section as what you want the title of the entire form to be. This is because this first section title actually appears on every page. This is why I am leaving it as Tell Me About Yourself instead of changing it to be more specific, such as personal information. Now that we are done with this section, let's move on to the next, which I will go ahead and title Disney Overview. This third one will be Disney specific. So I will add a new section and then type that in. And for our last one, we will name it just Favorites. You can also add descriptions to your sections. However, I will just leave it blank. Now that we have our sections added, let's move on to arranging them so they can review specific questions based on answers. For this, I will head over to my Disney Overview, click on my question, and then head over to the ellipsis and choose Go to Section Based on Answer. This will then add a drop-down to every choice so you can choose where you want that corresponding answer choice to lead to. So if one answers yes to my "Have you been to Disney World before?" question, we can have it lead to the next section, go back to the first section, and etc. And since I want it to go over to the Disney specifics question, so that way I can ask them what is your favorite park in Disney World, I will leave it as continue to next section. I also want the user to continue on to the favorites question after answering our Disney specific question. However, if you don't, and you want this entire section to lead somewhere else, you can simply go down to the after section 3 and go to the drop-down to choose what section you want this section to lead into. Since I want the user to continue on to answer the "What is your favorite color?" section, I will leave it as continue to next section. Alright, now that we are done with our yes option, we will go back and work on our no option. If the user has never been to Disney World, I want them to skip this Disney specifics question and jump straight to the favorite section. So I will click on the down arrow and I will choose go to section 4, which is our favorite section. Now, when the user chooses no, it will skip over our Disney specific and head straight to our 4th section, which is this favorite section. If we go back, you can see that we also have a choice to just submit the form. If you choose this option, that means the form will end and it will be automatically submitted for anyone who chooses this no option. I see this being used a lot for minimum requirements that are not being met. An example is if you are signing up to participate in a research study and the RSVP has a question that asks, "Are you 18 yet?" And if you say yes, you will be able to continue with the form. But if you say no, Google Forms will submit the form and restrict you from completing the rest of the form because you don't meet the age requirement. But that's not what we want to do, so I will just leave it as go to section 4. And this concludes how you add sections. So let's cut to what the preview of our new form looks like, so we can see how it turned out. So this is what our preview looks like, and this is what you get when you first open it up. So these are the 2 questions that we have under our first section, and when you click next, you get to see our Disney overview. If I choose yes, and then I click next, it will bring me to the Disney specifics, and it will then lead to our favorites. But let's backtrack. And this time, let's choose no. I have never been to Disney World before. So now when we click on next, it will skip over our Disney specifics and it will take us straight to our "What is your favorite color?" section. This sections feature might be a little confusing and hard to understand at first, but if you just mess around with it and test it out in the previews, you will eventually get the hang of it and notice how useful it is when you are creating your forms. In this video, we are going to talk about how to transform this form from this bland default purple into something that looks much nicer by using themes, colors, and fonts. To do so, we will head up to this art palette icon at the top and click on it. This will open up a sidebar with options for headers, theme colors, background colors, and font styles. First things first, let's talk about the header. A header is the image that goes on the top of the form and is present on every page of the form. When you click on Choose Image, you will have the option to choose from the many photo apps that Google Form offers, or you can upload a photo from your computer, or select a photo off of your Google Photos. Let's say that I have a photo that I want to use ready on my computer. So I will go over to Upload and click on Browse, and then select on the picture that I want to use. Let's just use this cityscape one, for example. Once it's done loading, you might see that we have a slight problem. As you can see, we have this rectangular cropping box. This is because Google Form headers only support up to the dimensions of 1600 times 400. Since my photo is bigger than that, I will have to crop it. This dimensions restrictions is the reason why I usually just use one of the provided Google Form headers rather than uploading my own photos. However, if the cropping doesn't matter to you, like I think this would be a really great image header, you can just go ahead with it. You can also always just go ahead and resize the photo beforehand, so that way it would fit into the dimensions. But if we click clear and go back to our themes to see the offered Google Form headers, you can see that there is a wide range. We have illustrations as well as real life images, so more realistic ones. And I will actually go ahead and choose one that I think would look nice. So since this is a tell me about yourself, I kind of want it to be more random and not focused on anything. So let's just say I choose this one. I will click insert, and once it's done loading, you can see that we now have our nice header up. Now we can stop here, or we can go further by choosing our theme color. Theme colors are colors that are associated with the image that you uploaded. And they dictate the color of the section background colors, the back, next, and submit buttons, the fill color of the selected answer choice, as well as the background colors. If I change the theme color, the corresponding items change color as well. And if you don't like the provided theme colors of the photo, you can click on this plus sign to select your own or to input a specific color code. So I will actually go ahead and stick with this first one, which is this pink color. Now that we have our pink theme color chosen, let's move on to our background color. So this controls the color on the side of your form, and they just get progressively darker, and you also have this white color. So I will go ahead and actually settle for this dark one, or semi-dark pink. Next up, we have font style. So when you click on the drop-down, it will show you the 4 offered style. First up, we have our basic style, and then our next one is this decorative style. So this is a more wedding-esque look. Then there is a more formal style. So this looks like the Times New Roman font or something that's similar to that. Last but not least, we have a playful style. Now, with my forms, I usually stick with basic, but I actually want to test out this playful style for this one. Now that I am content with the form that I created, I will exit out, and I will cut to a preview of what our form looks like now. So, you can tell right away it looks a lot better than what it did in the last video, where it was just that default purple bland color. But now we have our nice header, our theme color, the corresponding background color, and as I mentioned before, your theme color is the color of your buttons, as well as the section background fill color, and the fill color of the answer choices. So, this is what our new form looks like. There are so many options and combinations that you can do with the headers, themes, colors, and fonts that Google Form offers. So go ahead and play around with it to see which images and colors match your form the best. We are bringing back our Halloween bake sale pre-order form to talk about how to design a custom header for your Google Forms. While Google Forms does have a great selection of headers, sometimes it might just not have what you're looking for. And as we saw in the last video, it could be difficult and annoying to deal with the picture croppings for the header. So we are going to learn how to make a custom Google Form header design in this video. Canva is a great and free website that allows you to easily create designs, but since Forms is a Google Drive app, I will stick within the Google Drive app realm and show you how to make one on Google Slides. I already have Slides open, so I would just switch over to that tab. Now, first things first is that you want a blank slide. So I already have one here. And our next step is to head over to File. Then you will drop down to Page Setup. We are then going to click on the drop down and choose Custom. And first things first, we are going to go over to the unit side and change it from inches to pixels, because that is what Google Forms uses. As for the dimensions, we are going to put 1600 times 400. Now when I click Apply, the slide will be changed into this new sizing, and this will fit perfectly when we upload it onto Google Forms later. Once you have this sizing down, you can just go ahead and design your header by either uploading logos or pasting Google images onto this new page. Now I'm just going to go around and mess around with it and create a new header. So this is the header that I just quickly made, and once you are done with your design, you will go over to File and go down to Download. When you hover above Download, you will see a bunch of different download options. For this, you can choose either JPEG or PNG. Either one works, but I personally like to use PNG more, so I would just click PNG and wait for it to download. Once it is downloaded, we can head back to our form and click on Themes, Cancel, and choose New Image. And this time we will click Upload, Browse, and look for your file. So here's my file, and since we already set the dimensions to match the Google Form headers on slides, there's no need for cropping. We can just simply click Done and wait for it to process. And this will be our new header. As you saw in this video, it is super easy to custom make headers, and you don't even need to leave the Google Drive apps to do so. Now that we have our questions ready and our form is looking the way we want it to, let's move on and discuss the different settings that Google Form offers. To access the settings, navigate over to this icon and click on it. This will open up a pop-up with 3 sections. So we have General, Presentation, and Quizzes. And we will start off by talking about this Generals tab, where it asks us if we want to collect email addresses. If we check this box, it will open up this bottom option that asks us if we want to apply response receipts. So this is where Google Forms will actually send the responders a copy of their answers. Now, if we go ahead and hit Save, we can see that Google Forms has automatically added this new required email question for you to fill out. And it will have this even if you already have an email question in your form. Alright, so let's head back over to our settings, and I will actually uncheck this. Something else that you can do is limit to 1 response. And as you can tell by the subtext, checking this will require the users to sign in to make sure that they only fill it out once. We can also choose if we want the respondents to be able to edit after they submit the form, as well as if they can see the summary charts and text responses. What this latter option means is that the user will be able to see a summary of how everyone else who took the form responded. Now let's move on to the Presentation tab, which focuses more on the appearance of the form. And first up, we have the Show Progress bar. A progress bar lets you see how much of the form you have already answered and how much more you have yet to go through in terms of pages. So this means that this function is really useful if your form has a bunch of sections. If your form does not have any sections and this box is checked, then Google Forms is just going to say that you are on page 1 of 1, which isn't necessary or helpful at all. However, I do recommend the progress bar for forms with a lot of sections, And I will show you what the progress bar looks like for those forms with a lot of sections like this one when we cut to the preview later on. Next up, we have the shuffle question order. And by checking this, Google Forms will scramble the order of the question, and each person's form will have a different order. So this is a great option to take advantage of if you are using Google Forms to make a quiz. The third option on this presentation tab allows you to add a link to submit another response. If this is checked, then on the submission confirmation page, there will be a link that says submit another response. And that link will open up a new blank version of the same form. So none of your previous answers will be on there. The last thing that this tab offers is a confirmation message. Every time you submit a Google Forms, there is a default confirmation message that says your response has been recorded. But you can actually write your own custom message for the respondents to see after they submit the form. Since our current form is a vague, tell me about yourself, I can simply write something like, thank you for taking the time to answer a few questions about yourself. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, this will be the new message that people see after they submit the form. So you can go ahead and tailor the message to what the form is about. For example, if this form was to help choose a movie for a movie night, then the confirmation message could be, movie choice will be announced Friday. Keep your calendar open for the night of blank. Next up is our quizzes tab. So this doesn't apply to our current form, but this is where you will go if you want to change your ordinary form into a quiz. But if you want to learn more about this quiz option, go ahead and review the quiz section. Now that we are content with our settings, I will go ahead and apply them by hitting the Save button. Now that we have our settings established, I will cut to the preview. So this is our preview of our new form, and if you look down here, you can see the progress bar, which is one of our latest additions, and it indicates that we are currently on page 1, and then we are currently on page 2, and now it lets us know that we are on page 3 out of 4, so we only have one more to go through. And this is why I like this feature and would recommend you to add it if your form contains a bunch of different sections. Now, once we go ahead and click Submit, you can see that here we have our custom message, and down here we have our 2 links. The first one lets us edit our response, and the other lets us get access to a new blank form. Now, if you didn't check the corresponding boxes in the settings option, these 2 links would not appear on your submission confirmation page. But as you can see, Google Forms is really easy to customize and learn to use, whether it is for making either a t-shirt order form, an event RSVP, or whatever you plan on doing. Now that our form is designed, we are going to move on to a new section where we talk about how to share and send the form out. But before we actually go and send it off, it is really important that we preview it to make sure that our form looks exactly the way we want it to. To preview, go up to this eye icon that is in between the themes and the settings. And when you click on this, Google Forms will bring you to a new window where it will show you what the final version of your form looks like. Now, so you should always go through it And if you realize that something is off or wrong, or if you want to tweak something, you can go edit the form by going down to this lower right corner and clicking on the pen icon. And this will bring you back to editing mode. So once again, it is really important to preview your form to make sure it is mistake-free when you go ahead and send it out. In the last video, we learned how to preview our form, meaning we can see what the final form looks like before we send it out. Now, when I feel that my form is mistake-free, I actually like to go in and answer the form, meaning individually go through and pretend to be a responder. So that's what we are going to do now. So I will go back up to preview and answer in these questions. So I can just randomly put and submit it. And I like to do this because this way you can sort of put yourself inside the form taker's shoes, and you can also see what the submission confirmation page looks like. Now, Google Form helps you analyze all form responses, so this test run of yours will actually skew up the numbers and data. To fix this, we will exit out and go back to our editing mode. And if you look at the tabs on the top, you can see that there is now a number 1 next to the response tab, indicating that we have received 1 form submission. If you click to switch over to the response tab, it will show you the answers that you just put in. We don't want these answers to actually be a part of the analysis, so to delete them, head over to the ellipsis on the top and then go down to delete all responses. Click OK, and now you will be back to 0 responses and have a blank slate. This is how you can do a test run of your preview without your answers impacting the results. Once you are sure that everything is perfect and ready to be sent out, go ahead and click on the big purple send button. At the top, it will once again ask if you want to collect email addresses, but right below it are the sending options. So we have the choice to send via email, by a link, or by embedding. So let's go back to the email option and work through it. For the email, you will just go ahead and type in the emails of the people that you want to send your form to. So I would just paste mine on. And next, you can write a subject. Google Forms will have already automatically filled it out for you to say whatever the form title that you already named it as. So since I named the form as Tell Me About Yourself, the subject line is also Tell Me About Yourself. Next up, we can also write a message. So you can write a custom message, but the default one that is provided is I've invited you to fill out a form. The last option to consider before we actually send out the form is whether or not you want to include the form in the email. Now, as you can see, it is currently grayed out because my form is a little bit more sophisticated because it contains multiple sections and has many pictures, which is not supported by the email function, so this option is not available for that. If your form is quite plain and just has a bunch of questions, this include form in your email option should be available for you. I will go ahead and hit send. And now I will actually cut to me opening my Gmail so I can show you what the email looks like. Now that I have my Gmail open, you can see that I have 2 emails actually. The first one is the one that I just sent. This one is the Tell Me About Yourself form, which is the form that we have been working on since the start of this course. And this is the one that you saw me send without having it include the form in the email. So instead, you would have to click on this Fill Out form. By clicking on this, Google Forms will then prompt open a new window for you to fill it out on. Okay, so let's head back and let's move on to the second email. This is a movie night planning form, another form that I made. And since this one isn't as sophisticated and has as many sections and images as our Tell Me About Yourself form, I was actually able to include the form in the email itself. So here it is. So when you include a form in the email, the form will be embedded into the email. This way you can take the form and submit it without opening the form up in a new tab. But you will still have the choice to do so with the Fill Out in Google Forms button if you want to. And this wraps up our sending via email. So let's head back and go back to our send button and click on our second option, which is by link. So when you want to send out the form via link, you would just go ahead and click copy, or you can shorten the URL and then click copy. Either way, both of these links will take you to the same form. So just copy either one and paste it or post it wherever you want. Next up is our last option, which is embedded HTML. So once again, for this option, we would just go ahead and hit copy and then paste this pre-written HTML code into your website code. By doing so, this form will then be embedded. Google Forms actually offers the ability to post a form as either a Facebook post or a tweet from Twitter. So by clicking on their respective icons, you can do that from here. So as you can see, there are a bunch of different ways for you to make sure that your form reaches the audience that you want. Google Forms' ability to collect and analyze the form responses is one of the greatest benefits of this tool. In the last video, we went over how to send out your form in 3 different ways. So once your form is out in the world and the responses start rolling in, you will be able to see the responses in the Response tab at the top. The number to the right of the Response tab indicates how many form submissions you have already received. So for this Tell Me About Yourself form, we have 16 current responses. Before we switch over, I just want to point out that I took out the question that asks for the responder's email and replaced it with the gender question before I sent out the form. Now when we click on the Response tab, we will see an overview or a summary of the form responses. Google Forms automatically stores and sorts the data in terms of charts to help you better see and understand the responses. So depending on the question type, Google Forms' way of depicting the information will be different. So for our name question, you can see that it gives you a list of the inputted names. And at the top, it also lets you know how many responses you have received for that question. As for the rest of our questions, so for our gender, our Disney World overview and specifics, as well as our favorite color, you can see that the information is displayed in a color-coded pie chart. Now I will actually go ahead and cut to another form that I made earlier before. So this is a movie night planning form that I made on Google Forms, where it asks for one's name, for them to rank these 5 movies, asks for their snacks and drinks, and when we click on the Response tab, you get to see the summary of it. So for our name, once again, it gives you a list. And for our movie choice question, you can see that it is organized in a side-by-side bar graph where it breaks down the results of each movie. For our snacks and drinks, the data is shown in a bar graph. So Google Forms takes the data and puts it into corresponding graphs and charts that will make the most sense. Now I will exit out and we will go back to our Tell Me About Yourself and scroll up to the top. So aside from summary, Google Forms also breaks down the questions in terms of question and individual responses. So if we go ahead and click on questions, you can see that we are currently on name, and it will list out all the responses to that question. So aka list out all the names and what people input for that. But if we go ahead and click on the down arrow to change the question, so let's say I will change it to what is your favorite color? It will show you the responses and the number of responses that specific choice received. So for blue, we have 5 responses, while green only had 3 responses. This Questions tab lets you better zoom in and focus on a specific question. Or we can go ahead and switch over to Individual. So for Individual, it lets you focus on the form responses of a single person. So this is our first form submission, which was done by me, and you can see exactly what I put and how I answered each question. As you can tell by this video, Google Forms makes it really easy to collect and analyze information because it does everything for you. And it breaks down the data in such a way where it is easy to sort through and understand. All you need to do is design and send out the form, and the rest will be done by Google Forms. So, super easy process. Google Forms lets you view the responses on the tool itself through the Response tab, or you can even connect your form to Google Sheets and use that as an analysis tool instead, if you are more comfortable with that. So to do so, you would head back over to the Response tab and click on the Google Sheets icon. And this will open up a pop-up asking if you want to create a new spreadsheet for the data, or if we already have an existing one ready. Google Forms will default the new spreadsheet name to be the title of the form, so tell me about yourself, and then response in parentheses. And once you click create, just give it a moment, a Google Sheets that is linked to the corresponding form will open up in a new tab. As you can see, the questions are sorted into columns, while the responses are listed in the rows. The first column also shows a timestamp with the date and the time that the form was submitted. And this is a new piece of information that you can't get from the Google Form analysis. So if you don't like the 3 information layout that Google Form provides, meaning the summary, the question, and the individual, you can link your form up to a spreadsheet and analyze the data yourself this way. Now, while there aren't any pre-made graphs or charts made, you can easily make them yourself on Google Sheets. And since Google Forms and Google Sheets are both integrated apps within Google Drive, they are super compatible with each other and work hand in hand. Once your form is sent out, there are a couple of response settings to know about. The first is notifications. If you want to get notified every time someone completes and submits your form, you can do that by going over to the Response tab and clicking on the ellipsis. From there, you can just hit the first option, which just says Get Email Notifications for New Responses. From then on, instead of having to constantly go back to the Response tab to check if the number has increased, you will get a push notification from Google Forms every time that happens. The ellipsis is where you will also go if you want to download or print your responses. Something else that we can do is control when to stop accepting responses, which is as easy as clicking on this switch to turn off accepting responses. This is useful if your form has a deadline. So if you think back to our movie night planning form that I mentioned in the earlier videos, we would use the switch to turn off the accepting responses for the form once the movie is announced. This will close the form and prevent people from seeing and responding to it. The default message is that this form is no longer accepting responses, but if you want, you can go ahead and click on it to type in your own custom message. This notifications and turning off responses can be helpful for your form in certain circumstances. This video marks the start of a new section where we transition from talking about ordinary forms and questionnaires to quizzes. Google Forms is a great tool to use if you are a teacher or a tutor and you want to create a quiz or an exit ticket to test your students' knowledge. It can also help you grade the questions as well as indicate the correct answers and leave answer feedbacks. Now, this is a chemistry quiz that I quickly created from a blank form. I went ahead and designed it with this chemistry and test tube illustration that I found in the offered Google form headers and set the background color to this muted green. Now, even though we have the title labeled as quiz number 1, this is not an actual quiz until we turn on that option. So let's head over to the settings icon and go over to the quizzes tab. Then you are going to click on the switch to flip it over and turn it into a quiz. This switch prompts Google Forms to give us access to the points and the answered feedback functions. So once you hit save, you will now have a quiz. The quiz that I created has 4 different question types. We have a paragraph one, multiple choice, short response, and last but not least, we have checkbox. Now, I personally feel that these are the most commonly used ones, so in the next few videos, we will be addressing each question type. And first up, we have our paragraph. So this asks us to explain the difference between imperial and molecular formula. Now, to access all the quiz features, we are going to click on Answer Key, which will let us edit the points as well as input our answered feedback. So go ahead and type in the number of points, or you can use the mouse to indicate how many points the question is worth. Since this is a long response, I will go ahead and say 10. Next, we can go and add in our answered feedbacks by going and clicking on Add Answered Feedback. Now we have the option to either add text, a link, or a YouTube video. So for text, you can go ahead and type in something like Review Chapter 13. Or you can go and find a website or a YouTube video that explains the difference. Either way, the feedback will be shown once the quiz is submitted. Alright, so now when we click Done, we have now completed setting up our paragraph type function features. But before we move on to our second question type, I want to emphasize something very important about the paragraph type question. If there is a paragraph type question, Google Forms does not have the ability to help you grade it since it is a written text and every student is going to have a different answer. So you will have to go in and individually read and grade the long response or paragraph type questions. But this concludes how to set up this first type of question. In the last video, we went over paragraph type questions. And in this video, we will go over how to use multiple choice questions. So here, this is my multiple choice question, and it asks which yields no reaction out of our 4 choices. So what we'll do is, once again, we will go over to our answer key and input our point system. This time, I will make this question worth 5 points. Now, to choose which answer is correct, you just simply click on it. Since this tests solubility, the first pairing is correct and will produce no reaction. So I will just click on it, and you know that Google Forms has registered this answer as correct because it is now highlighted in green and has a check mark to the right. Now, as you can see, I can click on multiple answer choices and label them as acceptable and correct too. However, this is a multiple choice question, meaning that the students or any of the quiz takers will only able to choose one option. So if you have 2 or more correct answer options, the question might become a little bit confusing since they won't have the ability to select on all the correct ones. Therefore, if you want to include a question with multiple answer choices, you have to list the question type as checkbox and not multiple choice. We can also go back and click on Add Answered Feedback, but this time Google Forms gives you the ability to give different feedback depending on whether the student chose an incorrect answer or a correct answer. And once again, you can add it in terms of text, links, or YouTube videos. And now we can click Done. Now, something that we can do for this question type, but not for our paragraph, is the ability to scramble the order of the answer choices. To do this, you will head over to the ellipsis on the bottom and go to Shuffle Option Order. This will randomize the question order choices for everyone, which could be an extra step to prevent cheating through online. And this concludes how you can include a multiple choice question in your quiz. Now, all you have to remember is that this question type only accepts one answer choice. We already talked about paragraph and multiple choice questions, so for this third type, we will tackle short answer text. So here I have a short answer question that asks for the user to name a molecular geometry or shape that is associated with the tetrahedral geometry. So once again, we will head right back over to our answer key and then input our points. I will assign 5 points again. And next, we will move on to adding in the correct answers. So just simply click on Add a Correct Answer and start typing. I will write in tetrahedral. Since this question actually has 3 correct answers, I will continue the same process by clicking Add a Correct Answer and inputting the second and third one, which will be trigonal, pyramidal, and bent. Now, Google Forms will mark any of these answers as correct, but it will only mark it as correct if it is written exactly the way you just input it. So be very careful of that. You can go in and re-add all these answer choices, but with the first letter capitalized, or you can add a description to tell the quiz takers to write in all lowercase. I will go ahead and check the Mark All Other Answers Incorrect, and then click Done. Now, to quickly go back to the adding the description part, that can be done by going over to the ellipsis and going to description. So here you can just please write your responses in all lowercase. Alright, so let's go ahead and type that in right now. And this concludes how you can write a short answer quiz question. To finish off our chemistry quiz, we will be talking about the checkbox question. So for this last question type, I have this question that asks for the quiz taker to check all true statements. And as we discussed in the multiple choice question type video, if you have more than one right answer, checkbox should be the question type that you use. So let's go over to answer key and input our points. So I will put 5. Now let's go and check off the correct answers. And just like the multiple choice question, you just have to click on it. The correct answer choices for this question will be the one that says sp3d hybridization, square planar shape, and oxidation at the anode. You know that Google Forms has registered these as correct because they are highlighted in green and have a check mark to the right. In order to get this question correct and get the full 5 points, the quiz taker must have all 3 of these answer choices marked. So let's go ahead and click Done. Now, before we are finished, since this is a question with a bunch of different options, I can go over to the ellipsis and choose Shuffle Option Order. So this will go ahead and randomize the answer choices. This concludes not only how to use a checkbox as a quiz question, but also our quiz itself. So hopefully these past few videos were helpful in helping you design your quiz and learning how each of these functions work when you are trying to format a quiz. To finish off our quiz section, we are going to talk about the different offered quiz options. To do this, head over to the Settings icon and click on the Quizzes tab. This is the same place that we went to switch the form from an ordinary questionnaire to a quiz. But this time, we will talk about the features on the bottom. And first up, we have when to release the grades. So either immediately after each submission or later after manual review. If your quiz has a long response or a paragraph type question, you must choose this manual review option. This is because otherwise, Google Forms will automatically mark all the submitted answers for that question as wrong, even if it isn't. Since they cannot actually determine if the response is correct or not, it will just assume that it is wrong. So be sure to turn on this manual review option if you want to include a paragraph type question. Next up, we can also choose what we want the responders to be able to see. So we can choose whether or not they can see the questions that they answered incorrectly, the correct answers, as well as how many points they got. So I just go ahead and check all these boxes. Something else that we can do is set the quiz so that the questions are scrambled and appear in random orders for everyone. To do this, head over to the Presentation tab and check on the Shuffle Question Order option. And now that we are content with our quiz setting, hit Save. And this is how you can get access to the quiz settings on Google Forms.
We're almost done. We're near the finish line for this course on Google Forms. It's not too late though. If you still have questions, post your questions here in the student Q&A section. If you have concerns, if there is confusion anywhere, let us know. We want to make sure you do not leave this course until you really feel that you know all the ins and outs of Google Forms. Google Forms is a great way at collecting data from your users, but it's not the only way. Another way is for you to post your thoughts, your reflections, your critiques of this course right here in the student Q&A section. So I'm asking you on behalf of Ying Ying and Benson, please post suggestions you have for this course on how to make it better. What improvements would you like to see? What additional lectures would you like to see added? Are there any you'd like to take out? Any information you feel it's misleading? Let us know right here. We're always trying to improve this course, and we take every single comment very seriously. Everyone is read, and we respond to them and typically make the changes nearly instantly. So please let us know what improvements you'd like to see in this course. Okay, I admit it. I'm a hypocrite. I ask for reviews. I don't always leave reviews. I say, well, you know, I'm so important, I'm in a rush, let me just finish the course and forget the reviews. Well, I feel for you. I've been there, but I'm telling you, I really need you to leave a written review of this course. Let me know what you think. What did you like? What could be better? That's how this course will improve. Now, the beauty of online courses is they're not like books where you just print it, that's it, it never changes. This course changes constantly. It's updated. We add things, we take things out. Now you can probably see, I got less hair than some of the earlier videos in this course. That's because this video is new. We're always updating. Now I might not look prettier, but we are trying to make this course look prettier and be better for you. So I'm asking, please leave a written review. And don't just leave a star number. Actually leave several sentences. Let me know what you took away from this course. How did it help you or not help you? Give as much details as possible. That's the only way I can make this course better for you. And hey, since you now have lifetime access to this course, the course is going to get better for you too. So please, don't just fast forward. Leave a review right now. If you've already left a review, you can always hit the edit button, top right hand portion of your screen, and you can leave a more detailed review. Thanks so much. I really do appreciate it. Congratulations, you have finished this course on Google Forms. I hope you now feel like you have an absolute, strong, solid foundation when it comes to your knowledge on how to use Google Forms. On behalf of Benson and Ying Ying, I want to wish you tremendous luck in your career and in every single application you use.